I can keep track of questions and things. Great, so why don't we go ahead and get started. Thank you everybody for joining. My name is Peter Pilarski and I'm with CIPR Communications. My agency is located in Calgary, Canada, and we're thrilled to be partnering here with Campground Bookings to talk about thriving in a pandemic and beyond using digital solutions. So a little bit of background, we've been working with Campground Bookings a little bit on a couple client websites in the campground space, and I've found some good working relationships, and so we thought it'd be a great opportunity to get everybody together to do a little presentation. So thank you for joining us, and thanks Sean and team for your collaboration. So we're going to be doing this presentation in two different sections. So I will be starting off and just talking about some things regarding some trends. So I'm going to be talking about really camping search statistics on Google, a little bit of a look at what's going on in the search world when it comes to campgrounds, a bit of a look at buyers today and how the buyer is changing, specifically with respect to online and digital. A couple slides on how to win online as a campground. Some things you could do to make yourself position better. And finally, question and answer, and we're going to be doing a giveaway. Followed by that, Sean is going to be giving some case studies and examples about how their technology has helped some campgrounds really thrive in the current environment. So starting off, since we have some people from both the United States and Canada, I'm going to be sharing some statistics for both countries. Really anybody can go onto Google Trends and basically just do some searching on your own. But I find Google Trends to be a really useful website to have a good look at what happens from a search perspective for any given search term. So in this particular slide, I just use the search term camping near me. And really, and this one is in the United States over the past 12 months. So, I mean, it should not be a surprise to anybody that obviously in the summer months is when things peak, and in the non-summer months is when things kind of valley in the camping world. That obviously goes with the seasons. A couple things about this chart, just from a how to read it perspective. The 100 over here means basically, maximum search volume for that particular search term. So, obviously mid-July is when there's maximum search volume. And so that doesn't mean really much beyond that. I'll get into some slides with some more detailed numbers after this. But one trend I will point out here is that in the United States in general, there is search volume year round. And you'll see in the Canada map or the Canada statistic later on, it's not quite the same. That's obviously an indication of warmer weather in the United States throughout the whole year. So people are searching for camping opportunities really year round with the obvious peaks in the summer. This is just if you on Google Trends, if you continue down, it shows you statistics by region or by sub-region. So the dark blue states on this map are the states that get the most search volume for the search term camping near me. And so these are the top 5 states in terms of volume. And you can basically go into this on Google Trends, and you can keep scrolling down here and find where your state is and get a better sense from your state perspective. You can also narrow these searches down on a state-by-state level, and obviously you can use different search terms and play around with it a little bit. So this is basically a table that came from Google. Me as a digital marketing agency, when I think about what kind of search terms we want our clients to show up for, I often use Google's tools to do some keyword research and to really understand what's going on. And there's some really interesting things going on here that I want to point out. Specifically, obviously, the very high search volume. So camping near me, average monthly search volumes, 500,000 people in the United States per month, which is a very high number. But what's an even more important number here, and the one that really gets my attention as a digital marketer, is this competition. So competition low, for the most part. And then this number next to the competition is sort of an indexed number in terms of how competitive is this search term. So to give you an idea, search terms that show up in the about 60 plus range are fairly hard search terms to rank for organically on Google, so through SEO. And search terms that show up with low numbers, usually I call low numbers between 40 and 60, are kind of search terms that you have some good chance of basically competing against, competing for and showing up for. And you'll notice here that some of these search terms with massively high search volumes have competition levels of like 5 or 3 or 8 or 1. So what does that tell you? The story is that there's a ton of people searching for what you do for your business, and really your competitors aren't doing a lot online to show up for those search terms. So to me as a digital marketer, that means opportunity and low-hanging fruit. So if you're thinking about whether you should be online and trying to rank organically for some search terms, and or if you think you should be spending money on things like Google Ads, the answer is absolutely. There's definitely a lot of search volume and there's definitely a low competition, which means that it's going to be quite achievable for you to show up #1 or on the first page of Google with those search terms. Just trying to get to the next screen here. So this is a similar graph with the same search term, camping near me, in Canada. So while the graph looks fairly similar, definitely you can see that there's months where there's just kind of no search at all happening. And so, you know, that is something to keep in mind. Obviously in Canada, it gets very cold. People aren't necessarily camping or looking for camping. So, you know, if you're a campground, are there other things you could be offering? And certainly there's other search terms that have a different trend. RV camping might be slightly different. There might be some other things that you might consider, some other search terms you might consider for those off months. But, you know, obviously it peaks quite a bit stronger in Canada in the summer, and it falls off quite a bit more, which, you know, really shouldn't be a surprise. If you look at it from a province by province basis, really the most searched province when it comes to camping is British Columbia. We all in Canada love to go to British Columbia, so that should not be a surprise. Ontario is second, Alberta third, and it drops off a little bit from there. So certainly if you're in Ontario, Alberta, and British Columbia, those are popular camping spots. But I would suggest that they're all, you know, all provinces have a good number of people looking for camping or for campgrounds and camping. So there's opportunities across the country. This is a similar table, basically showing similar search terms. Obviously, the volumes of search is lower. And, you know, interestingly, Canada's population is, you know, somewhere, you know, roughly about, a tenth of the US populations, and search volumes are roughly about the same. So, you know, relatively speaking, I would say the volumes on a per capita basis are the same. Interestingly, the one that stands out for me here is glamping pods. Not a lot of search, very high competition, but, you know, many of the other search terms, tons and tons of great opportunities to show up on Google and be found by your target audience. I just put this up. This is I live in Calgary. This is me searching camping near me, and just to see what comes up. And I just brought this up as a bit of I'm not sure kind of what knowledge level people have on the call. So really this is just the SERP, which is the search engine results page. A couple things I wanted to point out on here is, you know, #1, obviously it's February in Calgary, so there are no ads. Normally, on top of this map is where you would see any ads that would show up. So if somebody was bidding on this search term, it would show up there. The next kind of thing you see on Google's results page is the 3-pack, or the top 3 local search results. And those are really, really great places to show up if you can. And so a couple things you want to be thinking about to show up there is making sure you've claimed your Google My Business listing. So Google has a property online called Google My Business. Every business with an address where people go to that address should be thinking about claiming their Google My Business listing. But in addition to claiming that listing, really getting people to provide reviews helps in terms of showing up here, although there is one campground without a review here. But also making sure that your hours are up to date, making sure all of the information that can be populated on the search on the Google My Business listing is populated. The more fully populated it is, the more likely you are to show up here. And then finally, I think the other thing that a lot of people can be doing that aren't doing on this Google My Business listing is posting pictures frequently, posting information on there frequently. Our agency actually started really treating the Google My Business listing like a social media account. And we post fairly frequently on there for clients and keep it fairly active. And Google will reward you for spending time and effort on your Google My Business listing. And the great news for campground owners is that it takes really no money. It just takes some effort from somebody to go in there and actually, do those things on a regular basis. And then finally, on the right side of this screen, what shows up is your organic search results. And so those can be a little bit harder to show up for an individual campground, although not impossible. So what you'll see on here is things like visitcalgary.com, Travel Alberta, familyfuncanada.com, Daily Hive. So I'm going to speak a little bit about DMOs and being a good corporate citizen and sort of participating with your local tourism organizations, because if they're featuring you, there's a good chance you're going to show up there. Having said that, it is possible for campgrounds to show up here on their own as well. It just takes some effort on your part and some things that you need to do on your website. Next, I'm moving into just some statistics related to how things are changing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the next few slides come from our friends at Hootsuite. So I just wanted to give them credit and mention them because this is their research. But I think the most important statistic on this page is really the top left, which is that so first of all, this is percentage of users aged 16 to 64 who report spending more time on each device due to COVID-19. And so smartphone or mobile phone, 70%, which is a big increase, obviously, or a big number of people that spend more time on their smartphone or mobile phone. So the other three that are important are the laptop computer and the PC or desktop computer. But really what this slide tells you is that it's critically important for your website to be mobily optimized. People are searching on mobile, people are booking on mobile. In 2020, for the first time, Google has put more priority on mobile than it did on desktop and laptops. So mobile is number one, and it's quickly becoming the most important place for your website to show up well. And it's really a place that we encourage you to put a lot of time and effort into making sure that things are working properly. The next statistic I found to be absolutely fascinating. So this is really understanding e-commerce behaviors due to the evolving pandemic situation. And so what's really fascinating about this slide is that really website traffic to e-commerce sites has not increased. The amount of time people spend on e-commerce websites has not increased, but the conversion rates and the amount of transactions has increased by roughly 20%. So that tells me that people are more willing to buy online than they ever have been before. So, obviously, if you have a website with e-commerce capability and people can book right online, that will put you ahead of all of your other competitors in a hurry. People, look for quick solutions. They don't want to necessarily have to search and then phone and then talk to someone. They just want to book and move on with life. And so this statistic really speaks to that and really tells us that now more than ever, you want to make sure that you have e-commerce to make it easy for people to shop online. This statistic is also fairly interesting in that it talks about internet users in each age group and whether they expect to shop online more frequently even after the pandemic ends. And so shouldn't be a surprise that obviously younger people are more likely to shop online. But I think I point your attention to the right, to the two right sort of statistics there. Age 45 to 54 and 55 to 64, 48 and 37% more likely to shop online even after the pandemic ends. So, the story here is that this is a trend that's not going away. The reality is more people are getting more comfortable shopping online. The pandemic's likely forced more people to make a purchase online for the first time when maybe they've been afraid to in the past. This is just going to be a continuing trend, especially as obviously the younger demographics start to get older. Obviously those percentages are just going to keep going up, and the older demographics are obviously adopting these behaviors as well. So, now more than ever, it's really important to have some e-commerce capability. I'm just going to throw this out there. This is something I tell people all the time. If you're not online and shoppable in the next 5 years, I'm going to predict that your business is not going to succeed. And that's a pretty harsh statement, but I see where things are going, and it's going to be hard to keep up if you haven't gotten there by now or in the next few years. A couple more interesting statistics before we move on. This one's pertaining to reviews. Online reviews are incredibly important. And so 95% of shoppers read online reviews before making a purchase. 90% of customers read between 5 and 10 reviews before making a purchase. And 87% of customers say they trust online reviews as much as they trust word of mouth references. So this one's easy. Literally all you have to do to get reviews is ask people. Make sure that on your invoices or your receipts, you ask for reviews. Make sure there's signs up at your location asking for reviews. More reviews is easy to get, and it doesn't cost money. It just takes a little bit of effort and a little bit of energy on your part, which is great news. So the next couple slides, I'm just going to talk about, we've seen the statistics, and obviously the trend is pointing towards needing to be online. And the next question is, so how do we win when we are online? And so I like to categorize things into these 4 buckets, which is you need to be findable, you need to be trustworthy, you need to be helpful, and you need to be shoppable. So really findable is things like paid search, could be social media ads, could be Google ads, search engine optimization or SEO. We'll talk about these a little bit later in more detail. Being on social media in general is a good thing, and just being active on social media and encouraging your customers to also post on social media, maybe some contests and things like that. Showing them at your campground having fun is a great way for people to see themselves as also at your campground in the future at some point having fun. Electronic newsletters. If you're not collecting email addresses from every single person that comes to your location, I think you're missing a huge opportunity to sell more spots later on. So really, really important. And finally, your DMO, your destination marketing organization, or your local marketing, destination marketing agency, whatever that looks like in your jurisdiction. Really encourage you to work with your DMO and find ways for you to be featured by them, because they spend a lot of money and put a lot of effort into marketing, and any mentions by them is going to help your business. Trustworthy. So really in today's day and age, your website is your online store. Your website is your online business card. Your website basically is what people go to first to learn about you. And there's some things you need to do on your website to make sure that you're trustworthy. And I'll talk about what that means in a little bit. And then finally, those reviews, as I mentioned, they're huge and invaluable. And they're sort of the gift that keeps on giving, because once you get a lot of reviews and once you get into a rhythm of getting reviews, it becomes easier over time, and people are going to be more willing to give them. Next is helpful. So really that's content marketing. When people go online, they're looking for information to solve their problem or to answer their questions. And so your job as a website or as a destination is to answer those people's questions. So things like a map of your location, things like guides, things like things to do when they're there. All of the information that people would want to have in order to make a purchasing decision. Really, that's your job, is to answer their questions. And then finally, shoppable. So really having an e-commerce platform is key to that. And then CRO, really, it stands for conversion rate optimization. So are there any barriers on your website currently that are preventing people from actually making a purchase? And I'll spend a couple minutes on that as well. So findable. So a couple different things you could be doing and some definitions here. So paid search is really a short-term tactic that can get fast results. It can get expensive, although I will say that in your industry, because of the low amount of competition, it's not likely to get expensive very quickly. So obviously that means like Google paid ads, Facebook ads, social media ads. display ads, remarketing ads, all those different types of ads are really just different tactics. But that is one quick way to get people to find your website, on Google more quickly, and to convert them into sales. Search engine optimization is really defined as a process of improving your website to increase visibility for relevant search terms. So SEO is a long-term tactic. It does take time to get results from SEO. But I always call SEO future-proofing your business. SEO is one of those services that once you're findable, once you sort of climb up that hill, and you're doing all the right things on your website, eventually the SEO kind of takes on a life of its own, and it's sort of hard to knock you out of that top position once you're doing all the right things. So yes, it takes time to get there, but once you're there, it's sort of the gift that keeps on giving. And just a quick story from the pandemic here. We have many clients that were doing both SEO and paid search. And when the pandemic hit, initially, a lot of them stopped paid search immediately because, people weren't searching or buying stuff. But many of those companies that were investing in SEO kept seeing results and kept seeing search volume and kept seeing website visitors and sales, because the SEO, even though some of them stopped doing it, all the work they had put in was paying off dividends when they kind of took a pause. So it is definitely something that I recommend for every business, no matter what industry you're in. Social media, obviously Facebook, Instagram, influencers. These can be very effective and relatively inexpensive. What I'll say about social media, though, it's important to be consistent. And my one caveat about social media always is that you do have limited control. Social media platforms can change what they do. They can change their algorithms, and it can quickly change your fortunes. So, you don't necessarily control everything on that asset, whereas your website is something you fully control. And nobody really can take away from you. So I always encourage people to invest in their website first. Social media is important, but I think the website's more important. That's just my personal opinion and bias on that. E-newsletter, as I mentioned, once somebody's been to your location, they know what to expect. They become a much easier conversion than somebody who's new. So obviously, converting customers who are previous customers is a great way for you to get that revenue up. It's a great way to stay top of mind. I mean, the nice thing about an e-newsletter is, like, you could do one a month over 12 months. And if you're doing some renovations to your campground, if you're making some improvements, some changes, let people know. Just let them, that's things people care about. Hey, wow, they got a new park. My kids are going to love that. I'm going to book, right? So just a great way to stay top of mind. Make sure your e-newsletter is easily shareable. So with some sharing buttons on there so that they can easily share it with their friends. And most important, collect email addresses. I see so many businesses that have people coming in through their door every day, and they don't collect their email addresses. And it's really a lost opportunity to then, communicate to those people with an e-newsletter and stay top of mind. And then finally, your DMO, your tourism industry, be an active industry partner, especially if you look at those months where there's not much going on. Those are great opportunities to go show up at a tourism industry event and to do some networking and to stay top of mind with your industry partners. You never know where a good partnership might come out of there. You never know when an opportunity to get a feature article from a DMO might come in. And those things could help you a lot and don't necessarily cost a lot of money and don't take a lot of energy. So trust is really important. And so this is something borrowed from our friends at SiteTuners, which is a conversion rate optimization company. And when somebody goes on a website, they ask themselves 3 questions. Am I in the right place? How do I feel about this site? And what am I supposed to do here? So if you think about your website, am I in the right place? Does your website look like a camping website? Does it have pictures of people camping? Does it have pictures of RVs or whatever it is your campground does? Does it have a picture of your campground? It's really important immediately. You can't make your visitors think, and you need to match their intentions, their intent with their expectations. It's really, really important. So, the simpler the better when it comes to your homepage of your website. It really needs to just tell people you're in the right place. Next thing it needs to do is it needs to be designed well to boost credibility. So, there's things like social proof. So if you have a lot of reviews online. It's great to put those top, front and center to make sure people, wow, this is a great campground. Lots of people are recommending it. Is there any kind of, security seals or any kind of like awards that you've won, or is there anything, that you can sort of add to your homepage right when they, and I'm talking about right when they get on your page, it's called the above the fold section. The first thing people see, what can you do to make sure that you increase their trust, and make sure that they feel comfortable on your site? And things like a poorly designed site, things like boxes that are not lined up, things like a missing phone number. Those are all things that actually reduce trust. Believe it or not, a phone number is the #1 trust factor on a website. Even if people don't call it, they want to know that they can call it, because real businesses have phone numbers. So, definitely there's some conversion rate optimization best practices that you should be considering to make sure that those people trust you when they get onto your website. And finally, the most important thing is, what am I supposed to do next? So visual emphasis directs the visitor's attention. So, yes, you have a menu bar at the top of your website, but don't assume that people are going to see or read that menu bar. People look at a website and they start scrolling down. They might scroll right past your menu bar. So, you might want to have a visual menu bar below that with your most important 3, boxes or 3 kind of menu items. You need to have calls to action. What do you want people to do on your website? You need to make it really simple for them to click on, different boxes so that they can navigate themselves through your website really, really easily and effectively. So a couple of these are literally just like website conversion rate optimization best practices. And so this is relating to trust. So rotating banners, I see a lot of websites that are really pretty with rotating banners, and there's lots of moving parts, lots going on. The reality is, and this is Site Tuners has tested this over thousands and thousands of websites. Rotating banners and lots of movement on your website actually reduces conversion. And the reason for it is because like we have our fight or flight kind of mechanisms as animals, and lots of moving parts kind of get our backs up and kind of makes us fearful, right? So remove those rotating banners and keep your website nice and simple. I already mentioned displaying visual navigation on a homepage, reducing the number of form fields. So when you're actually getting somebody to fill out a form, less is more. Do you really need their work phone number and their wife's phone number and their date of birth? And no, you need to know their name, their email address, and maybe a phone number, or 2 or 3 pieces of information. The simpler it is, the more likely you're going to get somebody to fill out that form. And then obviously those trust symbols, anything you can do to add trust in the header. And maybe if you're part of a campground association, maybe that's a good trust header. Trust symbol in the header. Maybe if you're part of a destination marketing organization or local chamber of commerce, or whatever, anything that you can add to the header to add trust helps when it comes to conversion. Finally, the other thing I mentioned already is Google reviews, but also social media reviews. So this is actually from Google Help, this particular slide. So I already mentioned these things, but remind your customers to leave reviews. I would put up signs on your bathroom. I would put up signs at your check-in desk. I would put leave us a review everywhere you possibly can without being offensive. So there's a balance, obviously. But the more you can remind people to leave reviews, the more likely they're going to leave reviews. And comment on reviews is sometimes people will leave a bad review, and sometimes people have a bad experience. It's really important then to reply to those reviews, and don't reply defensively. The best thing you can do is reply with, hey, listen, I'm sorry that was your experience. Here's our phone number. We'd love to have a conversation with you to see if we can resolve it and make your experience better next time. The thing you want to do with these reviews, and generally online, is to take these conversations offline. The last thing you want to do is have a big back and forth rant with a customer online. That does not look good on your business. So, get them offline as quickly as possible, be transparent, and move on. And if you're a good business and people like you, people will also come to your defense. So don't worry too much about that. And finally, important is verify your business. There's a lot of businesses that have they're Google My Business listings, but they're not verified. There's just a process to go through and verify that you are a legit business. Really important to do. So content marketing and user experience. This is just basically a definition of really what search engines want. So when I talk about things like search engine optimization and content marketing, really what search engines want is the most relevant, usable results. It keeps searchers happy and it keeps search engine revenues rolling in. So really what search engines want is the same thing that humans want. They want answers to questions, but they also want a good user experience. And so I'm going to talk about what that means in a second. When you're thinking about content marketing and answering people's questions, you really got to think about content in terms of the buyer's journey. So if I think about a campground, the awareness stage is things like videos and photos and your social media posts and maybe a map of your campground and things like that. The consideration stage are, things, obviously this one doesn't quite apply to campgrounds, but, your newsletter, there could be some content in there that can help people through that consideration stage. Maybe there's maybe webinars don't fit here, but again, maybe there's some videos about that are a little bit more specific to your the different services, your different experiences, the different things there are to do around your location. So your awareness video might be kind of a high level overview of the campground. The consideration video might be a little bit more about the features and the different things that you guys offer people so that they can have a better understanding of what their experience is going to be like with you. And then finally, the decision phase is really where your pricing comes in, your demos or your different types of campground spots, things like that, different types of activities in more detail. So this is really where all the details should be, is in the decision stage to help people get past and make that final decision to book. So this is another slide from our friends at Site Tuners, and I apologize because this is from a presentation that they gave to our clients, but they called it True Connection Simplified, but this is really the TCS in the middle. You can replace that with CRO, Conversion Rate Optimization. So what this shows really is when you can match the user's intent. So their intent is to learn about your campground and to potentially make a booking with their user experience. So their intent and their experience matching with your goals. So your goals obviously are to showcase your campground and to get people to book. Their intent is to research campgrounds and to make a decision on where to book and when to book. And then the experience is really all about a fast website, no spelling errors, simple to navigate, all of those things I talked about in slides earlier. If you can make all those three things align, that's really when conversion rate optimization happens and when success happens online. I already talked about e-commerce and reservation software for being shoppable. So obviously our friends at Campground Bookings are going to talk about that a little bit more, but really lowering the number of fields decreases friction. And what you want to do on your website is decrease friction wherever possible. So less fields is better. So obviously having some kind of software to make it easy, that's really where campgroundbookings.com comes in. And so I'm pretty much done here and I'm going to let them take over and just talk about their solution and kind of talk about some success factors and how they help campgrounds succeed. So with that, before we end today, Sean will be doing a random draw of people on the call. And we're going to be giving away a couple things. So he'll talk about his giveaway during his presentation. What I'm giving away is a free internet business analysis. And so what we do with I call it an IBA, is we do a demand analysis online for your specific region and some keywords that are of interest. We do a report of your visibility online. We do a report on your online reputation. I do a technical performance analysis on your website. I do a user experience analysis on your website, and I provide you with a list of recommendations on how to improve your online presence. And then in addition to that, if you decide you want to come to CIPR Communications for a new website, then we're offering 15% off as well for the person who wins the giveaway. So with that, I'm going to pause and ask if there's any questions. And unshare my screen. No questions?
I don't see any popping up, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them either in the chat or into the Q&A.
Perfect. And with that, I'll let Sean jump right in.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Peter, and thanks to the CIPR team. My name is Sean, and I'm the Director of Marketing at Campground Booking. And, you know, obviously, this pandemic has got every industry shifting. And while you don't want to ever celebrate anyone else's struggle, it's been also encouraging to see how successful campgrounds have been in all of this. I was reading a stat the other day that the industry is growing faster than it ever has, especially in North America. And so with that, we just kind of want to share a few success stories of campgrounds that have not only successfully pivoted, but that have completely embraced an online presence. And then also just some creative ways that they've been able to use our campground. Should be pretty fun. So a lot of these are our current campground parks that we're working with, and as well as a few others that we've been able to come alongside. But if you have any questions at all, just feel free to throw them in the chat, and we'll stop and dive in. But let's just kind of look at a few stories here. And first and foremost, I want to see if I can, oh, it doesn't want me to change on here. Okay, let me do it the old fashioned. I don't know why Canva's making it difficult for me to move here. All right, hold on. We'll stop the share. Give me 1 second here. And there we go. Okay, so we're going to talk to you some of the campgrounds that pivoted in the pandemic, gone digital, and then found creative solutions. All right, let's talk about campgrounds throughout the pandemic. First and foremost, one of my favorite stories here is Scott and Caitlin Bosfeld, who are the new owners of Ray's Place in Minden, Ontario. Now, here's why this is remarkable. In the same year, this couple bought a campground. It was a adventure park that they decided they want to refurbish and kind of give it some new life. They bought the campground, they moved to Minden, and they had their second child, this little boy right here. And so overachievers for sure. They're also the sweetest, kindest people you'll meet. And they went online this year, and they're already projecting they're going to have the most successful year in the park's history as a result of it. If you look at the reviews, again, you know, going back to what Peter was saying, those reviews are the lifeblood of a lot of businesses, especially online. They've already just done a great job of collecting them, creating great customer experience. And as a result, you know, their people are vouching, the guests, anytime they stay, are vouching for Scott and Caitlin. And if you meet them, you could quickly understand why. But pretty exciting to see that even in a pandemic, you've got a young couple that's just jumping right in and already finding success. So that's pretty cool. The other one that we're excited about is Board and Bridge in Langham. And what's exciting here is this park had previously been derelict for the last 10 years. And Lynn Elliott and her team said, hey, I think there's some good bones here. We can turn around, and they have. And they're online, already finding success, already getting a ton of great reviews. And it's just been cool to see them take something that had, you know, been an eyesore before and make it something really pretty and give it new life. And the last success story here, real quick, I want to share is Badlands, which was previously the largest amphitheater in Canada. And I also learned this week, it's apparently the dinosaur capital of Canada. Apparently a lot of dinosaurs out there. So that's pretty cool. I mean, and then obviously you got Dinosaur Museum. And it's just a beautiful park in general, so much to see. And, you know, they obviously had to shift gears a little bit when the pandemic hit. And so they thought, hey, how can we use this space more creatively? Obviously, we're not doing the same shows that we were before. So they started up a campground. And as a result, they took 97% of their reservations came from online reservations. So already finding a great channel, great way to drive their business. And it's been cool to see them, and they're opening up the amphitheater again, hopefully in late 2021, and featuring acts like Tom Cochran. And, you know, they seem to be on a really bright trajectory here. So pretty cool. But now So those are a few campgrounds. We've jumped in the pandemic. It's awesome to see. But let's talk about some more tangible ways in which having an online presence really does help. Peter did a great job, and we're just going to share a few of those case stories from our campgrounds and how they've gone digital entirely. And so first, Golden Municipal Campground. So Golden Joy Guyett and her team over at Golden, they've had this campground for a few years now. They have about 150 spots, and last year she took 6,000 reservations entirely online. And so already finding huge demand, super successful. She transitioned to us, and and we've been able to give her a little bit of an easier experience. But one of the big things here is that whether you're a park that's under 50 spots, you're a park of over 50 spots, or more than that, we can still accommodate you, and online reservations is still going to be the easiest way for your business to go forward. Now, I think there's a lot of fear that, hey, if we transition the way that we've been doing it, then we're going to lose some of that interpersonal touch. And talking with Joy, that apparently hasn't been the case at all. Like, she hasn't lost any step. And in fact, if anything, our parks on average save about 300 hours a year in administrative manpower. And so, you talk about if Joy was taking her 6,000 reservations entirely over the phone or on email, that would be an administrative headache. And fortunately, through an online system, she's been able to offload all of that and focus on the things that she wants to do, connecting with her guests, tending to a greater customer experience. And so already really cool to see that happening. And obviously the pandemic has only shot up her numbers as more and more people are going camping. And it's a great thing to see for that industry. The other one, Ponderosa Pines here in Lower Cape, New Brunswick. And they're exciting because a few years ago, they had never taken online booking. They were doing pen and paper, and fair size park here. But what's been really cool is not only have they found success through online reservations, also fun fact is over 5% of their annual business came from last minute reservations. So these are the folks that they're just kind of chilling, they're going through, they're procrastinators, and they didn't really plan out their trip. And so they're just looking online, hey, what's available? What can I just book right now, even after hours, after it's closed down, and just pay, pull in, and be good for the night? And they found, and again, 5% is not a huge number, but that's still 5% annually they wouldn't have had otherwise. And I think the other way to look at this too is think about, obviously in Canada, you guys, we're booking up early and we're booking out for the year, and that makes sense. But cancellations do happen, and having a flexible system allows you to always constantly update your online presence so that other people can come in, snag a spot whenever it opens up, and just keep your business moving. And they've been from that. A number of our parks find somewhere between 5 to 12% of their annual revenue from these types of use cases. So again, already a huge foothold that otherwise wouldn't have existed without having some sort of digital presence there. So again, we've got examples of parks that are jumping into it during the pandemic, parks that are going completely online during the pandemic. Let's talk about a few other ways that we've seen parks really get creative with their space and find other ways to monetize. And two in particular I want to share that I think are pretty fun. One is Devil's Backbone in Lexington, Virginia. So this, to be fair, they did not start as a campground. They started as a brewery, but they quickly realized, like, hey, we're in the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's a beautiful area. Why not let people go camping here and hang out at the brewery? And so, especially with the pandemic, that's expedited the whole process, and they've really been building out spots like crazy, and they've grown quite a bit. And they have great beer, apparently. I haven't tried it, but it's a whole experience right there in one. And I imagine this will become more and more a trend. You're already seeing it with wedding venues that are doubling as campsites now, and you have campgrounds that are getting into wedding venues. There's tons of cool use cases. And I was talking to a few of our parks, and a lot of them have just been finding really interesting ways to pivot, whether it's offering drive-in movies or open movie theater night. Granted, it's hard to do in the winter, for a lot of folks, but in the springtime last year, summertime last year, they were just getting really creative that space, outdoor tournaments for sports in the past. So I think there's a lot of ways that campgrounds can definitely find other outlets for their land. And the last one, and this one's a little bit, it literally is a little bit of a wild use case. Discovery Wildlife Park in Innisfail, Alberta. I love this park because they literally are a zoo. You know, it's a wildlife rescue, and so they are, you know, oh, I guess everyone's got bears, but these are safer bears because, you know, they're, you know, not out in the open. But they've got tigers, lions, you know, monkeys, all kinds of stuff that's going on here. And what's really neat is seeing the bundles that they'll offer their campers, you know, coming in and say, hey, come stay at our park, and by the way, we'll give you tours of the zoo. They got golf carts, and they, you know, they're running like a well-oiled machine, and it's just really cool to see. And their social content has been fantastic, which you can imagine. You know, they've got a lot to pull from here, and so you go check out their Instagram, Discovery Wildlife Park, or their Facebook. You know, they have a lot of fun with it, and it's very clear that they're creating an experience, which is really what we're all doing at the end of the day. I mean, people aren't just going camping, you know, just because, you know, like, it's not like going to the grocery store where it's like, well, I got to do this thing. Like, no, people, this is a lifestyle. People want to get out. They want to connect with nature, obviously. And I imagine everyone's in this industry because we love connecting with other people, and we love connecting with the outdoors. And so it's just cool to see someone else, you know, just jump in there in real creative ways. So that being said, I realize not everyone's got a zoo in their backyard. I realize not everyone has a brewery on their property, but, you know, I would encourage you to think, how can we use this space creatively, you know, and not slow down, you know, especially with everything going on. But yeah, so I mean, I you know, just want to be real quick and for the sake of time, allow some question and answer, and maybe in our little giveaway here. But yeah, the neatest thing that we could do at Campground Booking is we are not trying to give people a new way to run their business. We're trying to help them run their business, but we're giving them the tools to be autonomous in the process. You know, and I think Peter's absolutely right. You got to go online. That's where the future is going. That's where the market is. But what we want to do is we just want to take all the legwork out so that you can still do the things you love. You can still connect with your guests. You can still connect, you know, in this space, in this industry. And we just want to be your, you know, your sidekick in the process. But yeah, so that's it on my end. Want to be respectful and leave room for questions here. And I'll stop sharing my screen. But yeah, do we have any questions from the crowd?
Looks like one came through. It says, what are your thoughts about being a pickup or drop-off location for RV share or outdoorsy rentals?
Yeah, my thoughts, thank you, Dennis, for that question. So that's another cool thing I failed to mention. So with Campground Booking, we benefit from having a lot of really cool partner relationships. And, you know, Dennis alluded to, you know, people like Outdoorsy, where folks are able to go rent their RV, and campgrounds are, you know, that are connected with that are able to be a drop-off location. But what's really neat is that there's a huge open market now of whether it's Go RV in Canada, Travel BC, you know, Outdoorsy, CCRVC, where folks can go book online with any of those sites. And as a result of just using us, like, our campgrounds are able to get in front of 2 million eyeballs that they would have otherwise. And so from that standpoint, I think that, again, the benefit of being part of, I mean, it's essentially like being part of the Campground Association, right? Where, you know, as a result, you have all this huge network, all these resources coming at you. Well, we're just taking that online and scaling it out a little bit to where now, like, you're partnering with these other organizations in the, you know, campground space. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been really cool to see how those have panned out. Yeah, good question. Dennis is also saying lifestyle is an important part of the camping experience. So facilitating events makes sense, but how do you recommend doing that in a pandemic? Well, so a few things that, you know, we've seen from parks and kind of alluded to is we've been figuring out how creating community without it having to be, obviously, you know, people breathing on each other, but in which you have a little more flexibility, especially when you're, you know, outdoors and you're seeing a lot of people around fire pits. And one of the things that we did recently is we basically polled 700 RVers, full-time and part-time, and just asked them, hey, what are the most important amenities that you get out of the campground? And these were RVers, not campground owners. And, you know, I imagine we'd get different answers if we asked campground owners. But what the RVers were saying is, you know, their top three were the number one was just incredible views. Number two was Wi-Fi that was reliable, you know, and then the rest of them were trees, fireplaces, and well working, clean restrooms with good shower water pressure. And one of the things that we took away from that is a lot of people are saying that, hey, that campfire space is, I think, one of those areas where you can still connect with other people, you can still commune with other people without having to break any sort of COVID protocol. We've seen campgrounds that, again, like have offered movie nights. We've seen campgrounds that have offered outdoor tournaments for youth sports. And, I think that there's a lot of folks who are trying to figure out other ways that it still looks like it used to, but just with a little bit more of an open air concept. And again, like Devil's Backbone, they have the brewery and they've just kind of moved it all outdoors a little bit, or you wear a mask inside. And then, they're also doing a lot of, socially distant get-togethers around campsites. So I think that you don't have to change the lifestyle altogether to still complement what people have been doing.
Sorry, I just get another question in here. So CIPR, what do you see as other opportunities for creating online sales besides reservations, online stores, products, etc.? Yeah, definitely. I mean, and this is kind of where there's a couple different things. For sure, online stores, for sure, swag. There's some opportunities. Sean mentioned the brewery idea. What I would recommend and suggest is this is really kind of in line with that concept of go talk to your DMO, go talk to the Campground Association, go create some industry partnerships where, there are some opportunities to sell things online. I think about Kamloops. Tourism Kamloops is one of our long-term clients, and it wasn't a campground story, but they have like an outdoor wildlife park, and they sell a bunch of Tourism Kamloops swag over there, and I bought some because it would look good, because it was cool, right? So. Definitely there's great ways to think about partnerships and think about ways that you can get your brand out there a little bit more. When people are, I think about even when I go to places like Mexico or whatever, it's like people are having a great time. They're feeling a little loose in terms of their purchasing. That's a good time to get people to make some online purchases, and then they can get home and their stuff's there when they get there or whatever, or they can pick it up at your location, etc. So definitely a good idea. The other question is, can CIPR help with designing swag or stickers or taglines to help extend our brand? And yeah, absolutely. The answer is yes. We can certainly help with any kind of design needs. And I like this question because I think about branding and the importance of branding all the time. And think about if you're creating a campground experience and it's a fantastic experience, make sure you have a brand that is also aligned and fantastic. Like, people like cool brands and they like to be sporting those cool brands, especially when they have a personal experience with that brand. Like, I went to this amazing place and did this and that and the other, and here's the shirt, I have to prove it, right? So definitely take those opportunities as much as you can, and think about, it doesn't have to be an expensive thing to have a really cool looking brand that people will want to buy, but it's certainly something. Mugs, cups, things like that. There's lots of different opportunities to get creative and find ways to get more revenue. Even things like brand, like matchboxes and whatever things you might need for camping, right, at your store. All great opportunities to upsell.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got
actually, there's one more question.
Yeah. Does campgroundbooking.com integrate with other reservation management softwares? At the moment, no. It is our earnest desire that we would be able to build a complementary system with others. That being said, we do integrate with other softwares in terms of our channel partners like Travel British Columbia, Go RV in Canada, CCRVC, and Outdoorsy all have bookable sites on their campgrounds in which, yes, our system integrates with those. And then, we've been able to we've worked with a few campgrounds in the past that we found clever ways to kind of work around, where, they'll feature a number of our sites on us and they'll work with some other ones. Obviously, in the day, like, we want to be the one-stop shop for every campground, so that we're not only doing your online reservations and property management software, but that we're also doing your accounting, your reporting, your inventory, and everything under the sun. That's our desire and our goal. But yeah, good question there, Ray. And any other questions before we give our giveaway?
Looks like that's it.
Well, all right. Well, we are at that point, and I have asked Kaylin to pick a winner at random. And today's winner is Haley McNeil. Congratulations, Haley. So in addition to Peter and his team, the services, we are also at Campground Booking. We're going to send someone out to take professional photos of your park to spruce up your, give you some updated inventory for you. And then also, if you don't have a booking solution and we can be helpful, we're also happy to discount and that setup process and get you in a little bit quicker and easier. So Haley, we'd love to connect with you after this, and so CIPR. But on my end, I'll stop talking here, and I just want to say, Peter, CIPR, Kaylin, thank you all so much for hosting this. Sorry for saying y'all. I'm from Texas, and appreciate you guys big time. It's been a blast, and thank you everyone for joining.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Thanks.
You guys have a good one. Happy Wednesday.
Bye-bye.
I'm just gonna let the live catch up. A little bit delayed.
Oh, nice.
Okay, I think we're good. I'm gonna end it here.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think Haley's